ProTech 2020 Cybervision, your view on cybersecurity with Richard Stiennon and Andy Crocker. Hi everyone, welcome to ProTech 2020's Cybervision, your view into cybersecurity. Richard, good to see you. Last time we spoke a lot about events going on in Ukraine, which are really important. And it was quite interesting to see the cyber warfare that's going on. The one thing I would say is that, and we could really spend a lot of time talking about that again today, but most of the cyber warfare that's going on, most of the malware that's being used is targeting things only in Ukraine and in Russia. So for our viewers, and our idea is to make sure we keep our people that watch us, we keep them informed so that if they get something, they know what to do. It's not really going to affect them at this moment in time. So maybe we should speak about something else today.
Yeah, and just one thought though on the, so cyber war, there's attacks going on in infrastructure in Ukraine and vice versa towards Russia. But the thing that I think that impacts all of us is because we're all glued to our social media feeds, watching the stream of information coming across, and there's some amazing, disinformation coming across from both sides, I think, right? And obviously, from a Western perspective, Ukraine is winning hands down, right? They are creating these mythical heroes, the guys on the island, the ghost of Kyiv, and of course, the president of Ukraine himself is being made out to be this amazing person. Whereas, the Russians are doing very ham-handed deep fakes. Putin sitting at a big conference table surrounded by flight attendant students, and people look at the video and they realize he's alone in that room. They zoomed in on his tea pitcher, a glass tea urn, and you can see the reflection of the room, and there's nobody in it. It's all alone, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, there's a huge amount of disinformation.
So you just have to be careful before you retweet, so you're not participating in it. Yeah.
Okay. One of the big things that's happening at the moment, and it's been happening for a long time, but I think it's always worth us discussing, is ransomware attacks. We know Conti, a Russian group, are still doing their ransomware attacks, and there are other groups doing it at the same time. It's extremely prevalent at the moment. Let's
talk about one aspect of that, and I know you get involved in this sometimes, and certainly I've talked to other people who are right in the middle of ransomware negotiation all the time. And a lot of people say you can't have that delay between when you finally get the ransom to something you can afford to pay and the time it takes to convert money from your bank into whatever form of payment they want.
Real good point.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've had to do it. I've done negotiations for other people, and I've had to set up the Bitcoin wallet. And even though I had a Bitcoin wallet already, because I was doing it for another company, because we'd done the negotiations for them, I wanted to set one up separate so it looked all above board, and it takes forever. Your banks, I personally think the banks don't want you to buy Bitcoins. They say, and I can understand this as well, they say it's because buying Bitcoins is very dangerous and lots of people are losing lots of money. It is.
Yep, totally.
But also it seems to me is that they don't want you to buy it. So it takes forever to get the funds authorized to buy Bitcoin. If you're buying £100 worth or $500 worth, no problems.
Yep.
If you're buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth, there's a huge problem. And it takes ages to get it done. It can take days. Now, as you know, when you get that ransomware note, the threat note that says you've been encrypted, there's normally a timer on it. And that timer says that once that timer runs out, the private key that they would use to decrypt is gone. So you're on a timeline all the time. Now, I'm going to say that with some knowledge that most of the time that timer isn't as critical as they make it out to be, because they want to put pressure on you to make you pay. They don't give you time to be able to try and find a decryption tool. They don't want to give you time to speak to lots of people and say, oh, don't worry, you've got the R-Evil one and we've got a decryptor for that. A recent one that I've been dealing with was .waiting, and there was no decryptor. And we found that out really quickly. But it still takes a long time. Now, if you're going to have to set up a Bitcoin on the fly, you might lose that window of getting your thing. If you've decided, and I don't say that I agree or disagree, I'm here as a neutral on that. If people have to pay, sometimes they have to pay. I know most governments say don't pay. I'm an advocate for not paying, but I'm also an advocate for getting your data back.
Yeah.
What's your take on whether you pay or not, Richard?
Luckily I get to stand back and just look at it from an ethical quandary, because it's, you've got an existential threat against your business and maybe your own personal livelihood, weighed against the risk of encouraging more ransomware attacks, right? And hopefully somebody else, not you, right?
Yeah.
So, you could take the high ground and just say, screw it. I'm going to go out of business. I'm never paying the ransomware. But I don't fault anybody I never fault people for making extremely difficult calls.
No.
Right? It's, if they put the thought into it and they know what they're doing, then, the next step, of course, is, okay, as long as you're going to pay a ransom, figure out how you're never going to do that again, right? Use it as a learning lesson, right? You're paying back the technical debt that you had for not doing security and backups and all the rest of the things that you and I have been telling people to do for 20 years.
Yeah.
You're just paying that back. You owe that because you didn't pay for your backup and recovery service for the last 20 years like you should have.
This is your cyber debt that you call it, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Look, there's not much difference. As you know, I sort of broke my teeth sort of 20 odd years ago now with DDoS attacks when they were going with the ransom.
Those were ransoms.
The ransom emails that were coming in during the DDoS attacks. And, my advice was don't pay. And for the people that did pay, because we wanted to investigate, we were able to say, pay it this way. Don't let them dictate which way you're going to pay them. This was before cryptocurrency. So it was paying via Western Union and web money and things like that. And we would dictate the way they paid, and then we could try and follow the money, which was our way of investigating. And it proved very successful. Now, cryptocurrencies have changed all that. And not only that, with DDoS, you could bring in people like Barrett, who started off with Prolexic, when he invented Prolexic, that system. You could bring in people to give you a clean pipe and then take the DDoS. With ransomware, you don't have that option, unfortunately. If there is no unencryption key available, if you can't decrypt, then you either, and your backups, one company I was dealing with, their backup had failed. Even though they were getting the reports from the backup and their DR saying it was working correctly, part of it failed. Unfortunately, the part that failed was an SQL database which had other accounts in it. And they needed it. So they decided to pay. Now, this is our takeaway for this. If you are that company that is on the border of whether you're going to pay or not, if you've got a company that may be subjected to a ransomware attack, I would suggest that you get your Bitcoin wallets ready beforehand. Yeah. Because you don't have time. Once the attack is underway, you either bring in someone like me who will do the negotiations for you and do the payment for you, and we'll do it. But even then, it's difficult to get the payment done in time. Trying to do it yourself is even worse. So if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you've already got that Bitcoin wallet set up beforehand.
So you've got the wallet, but if you have to quickly purchase some Bitcoin, there's delays there. I know I applied for Ethereum, and I told you I was like, oh, I'm going to get some. And they wouldn't authenticate me for weeks. And finally they came back and said, okay, we're finally getting around to you and you're good to go. you could open an account, and by that time I'd lost the urge to buy Ethereum.
Yeah.
Luckily, the price had dropped in half, so that's a little scary to throw money away like that. So I never did. But and here's somebody who the first time I ever heard of Bitcoin, it was going for $2.30, and I said, no way, that's I'm not going to pay that.
I hate to tell you this. We had a company in California at the time, and we had a few servers, and our tech guy says to me, boss, do you want me to set one of these machines up to do some Bitcoin mining? I went, no, it'll never take on.
That's a fad.
It's a fad. Don't worry about it. No, I'm not bothered. Not interested in them. I'll never use them.
Yep.
Now I have Bitcoin wallets all over the place, and it's really important that you have them. Yeah, you're right that it does take a long time to purchase them, but that's normally the first time you purchase them.
Okay.
Or the first couple of times you purchase them. If you purchase them and you buying them, start using them in your company. You start using them to maybe buy things online or whatever, and you're buying Bitcoin, and maybe you're buying them for an investment, and you've got them in a wallet. Once you've started buying them and your bank account sees, or your bank security system sees you buying them relatively regularly, then you won't have that big a deal when it comes to buying the big amount that you might want to speak to your bank and say, look, I have to buy this, and it's going to be a big amount. But apart from that, you shouldn't have any problems. But it's the initial part. It's the first time you try and do it. Your banks think you're being conned. The banks don't like you buying Bitcoin, so they will put every obstacle in your way to stop you doing it. So
of course, there are hundreds of cryptocurrencies. It typically, is it once you've got an account set up, you can buy any cryptocurrency?
No. Well, yes and no. You can, because most systems that, like MoonPay is the one I used, you can buy any of the cryptocurrencies. So actually, all your bank sees is you go into MoonPay.
Right.
So it's not limited. Bitcoin, Ethereal, Bitcoin Cash, etc. They're all different amounts. That's the crazy thing. You think, right. Somebody says, "Oh, give me 0.2 of a Bitcoin," and you think, "All right," and then you look up Bitcoin Cash by mistake, and that's like $400. Oh yeah, that's a good deal. We get our gear back for that. And then you put it onto the proper Bitcoin one, and you find, oh no, it's $16,000 or it's $8,000 or something. It's quite a difference.
There must be businesses by now who have a hoard of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that a business that's suffering from a ransomware attack and needs to pay could just contract with them and let them pay out of their wallet.
You can. I'm sure there are businesses out there. We do ransomware negotiations for people, and we will do the payments for them. But it's people sometimes don't want anybody else getting involved. They don't, as you know, there's a stigma involved in reporting cybercrime.
Yeah. First time I met somebody who made payments on behalf of clients, I got the distinct feeling that he was sending them an invoice for consulting services so that they wouldn't reveal to the world that or their accountants that they had paid a ransom. Right.
Yeah.
So not a good practice, but
no. Well, it's not. This has always been the problem with cybercrime, and the fact that people wouldn't report it, so there was no sharing of information. I know that legislation's come out recently, over the last few years about look, you need to report it, and if you lose personal data, then obviously you have to report it, etc. But people are still, there's this stigma that's involved in sort of admitting, oh my God, I've been the victim of a cyber attack.
Do you see the future of these attacks, kind of creating a ecosystem on the defensive side to counter the ecosystem on the offensive side? So there'll be a business. We'll all know who to call. And
yeah, well, there is that business. As you know, Richard, we work together, and we know that. Yeah. We do this type of stuff already. We're relatively busy with it now. We're starting to become relatively busy with it, and we're doing good work. the trouble is that ransomware is so rife at the moment, it's hard to see the end of it.
Yeah.
The good thing is that people understand the need for the backups. They need to have the backups in place. They need to make sure that they can restore if they do have the attack.
That's the part of the backup and recovery business, is you have to test the recovery.
The point I
Yeah.
was just about to say, you smack
Yeah.
on, Richard. That's my
Yeah.
biggest thing. People say, but I had the backup. Did you ever test it? No. Did you
Nope.
ever try and recover data from it? No. Well, how did you know it worked?
Gosh.
But because it
When
kept sending me a message to say that it had backed up completely.
Yeah. When I was at Gartner, the backup and recovery analysts, of which there are many, would talk about weekly recovery exercises where you actually switch from your primary data store to the backup, and you do it on the weekend and make sure everything's working. And you might even leave it there, and then the next week you switch back. And that's, best in class, but people just seem to have stopped doing that.
Well, when we do cyber health checks on companies and we go in and we look at, sort of how healthy they are to defend against a cyber attack, that's one of the things we always look for. When was the last time you did an exercise that involved testing your backup, your disaster recovery? And lots of them don't. And we always say, well, then that's a mark against you. You need to. And the one thing about these type of things is when you having to go to, in UK, the Information Commissioner's office and say that you've lost data, etc. And when they come to you and say, when was the last time you had an exercise that involved going through your cybersecurity and, that you were under attack and you lost data and then you were able to recover it? When did you last do that? Oh, we never have. Well, that's a mark against you. And that when they talk about giving out fines that are virtually unlimited with the Information Commission Office, the fine gets bigger every time you say, no, you haven't done something. So, and that's that cyber debt that you always like to talk about. That's part of the cyber debt, because you've skimped on doing that. You owe that back to them. And that's what the Information Commissioner's Office might fine you with.
Yep. Cool.
Okay, Richard. Great chatting to you today. I think we'll keep it
Likewise.
short today. I think we need to do another one of these really quickly in the next couple of days, and we'll speak about some of the malware that's coming out at the moment that is affecting people, and we'll speak about what people can do about it. And we in the next week or so, I'd like to get one of the guest speakers on. I've spoken to Joe Men. He's agreed to come on, so in the near future we should have Joe Men on doing a thing. So let's say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next couple of days, and we'll do another.
All right. Great to see you, Andy.
And you. Oops, almost forgot. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.